Yesterday, I spent most of the day at a hospital with my 83-year-old parents. I was there just to be an extra set of ears and support for my dad, who was going in for a biopsy to see if cancer he has been living with has returned. So as you can imagine, anybody who has to go in for surgery, and this was a surgical procedure, full anesthesia, is already vulnerable, and you add to that another layer of vulnerability when you're dealing with a possible recurrence of cancer and a biopsy. So my dad, my mom, myself, we were all pretty vulnerable. But I'm so grateful for the love and the care, the compassion and the empathy that was shown throughout the entire process by every staff member of the hospital we encountered. From Fatima, the CNA, to Amanda, his nurse in the surgical center, to Terry, the surgical nurse, to Dr. Z, the anesthesiologist, and Dr. W, the surgeon. They all, in some sense, recognized and honored my dad's vulnerability, and by extension, my mom's vulnerability and my vulnerability. And they responded by leaning into that with patience and love and kindness and compassion, and with thoroughness, making sure that we understood everything we needed to understand in terms of the procedure and the aftercare. And this priest just left the whole experience feeling grateful for the love of Lent that I was able to experience through the care and compassion of these healthcare workers. This past Sunday, many of us in churches were drawn into the gospel of Jesus' wandering in the wilderness, a gospel that tells us where the love of Lent is willing to go, into the deepest, darkest, scariest wildernesses of our lives. As Matthew tells the story of Jesus' testing in the wilderness, in chapter 4, in verse 11, Matthew notes that after Jesus was tested, angels came to minister to him. That even Jesus, in this vulnerable period of his life of testing in the wilderness, experienced love, leaning into that vulnerability and ministering to him. And of course, we know that as Jesus stepped out of that wilderness, he enfleshed a love that wanted to seek out and lean into the vulnerability of so many other people who were sick, who were on the margins, who were broken in so many ways. And within that is a holy invitation to pause and pray on our Lenten journey. And maybe to just reflect on where we experience some of that transformative, sacred love leaning into our vulnerability. Maybe we experience that during a health scare or a health crisis, like my family is experiencing right now. Or through whatever cross or struggle we may be enduring or have endured. And ultimately find a little bit of gratitude or the grace to just take a really deep breath that comes from the peace of discovering just how far the love of Lent is willing to reach, even into the most vulnerable wilderness of our lives. Lenten peace and blessings to you all.